Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number. I have to take a look here. 608. Yes, of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Hey, right down here. See that? The Canada. Today, recording day is Monday, March 24th. Yes.
Correct.
That is it, 2025. There is a little bit of white stuff on the ground, and that's not because Donald Trump Jr. came to town. Sorry. Ooh, that just slipped out. Also, welcome to our very first day of Election 45 commentary and analysis. We'll see that we are trying to present the information for you in actual more concrete blocks so that it is easier to find and to digest, because there will be a lot going on. So hopefully it will work, because we're trying something just a little tiny bit new. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. And to our audio podcast listeners, welcome. We know that we have been a little behind on the regular shows, but we do not want you to miss the election coverage. We were hoping to get all the shows out in order. But that did not happen because we had we've been having some pretty interesting tech issues. But what we are going to do is get the election shows out to you in real time, and then catch up on the other ones. And hopefully at some point very soon we'll be all even and squared up. So there you go. But do we thank you for your patience? Let's see. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
All things being equal, I'm still here. I went to bed early last night because the night before, Lola woke me up at 2 a.m. And I didn't get back to sleep till 6. And then she woke me up again at 7, desperately wanting to go out. So, yeah, I kind of had a sleepless night last night. So, not great. I'm, still here, still in one piece. So that's something to be considered, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Forgot to thank the podcast's founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and PsychicTarot.com. Here, I'm going to move that out of my way because it's right in my face. I am doing better. Had a rough evening Saturday. Did okay Sunday. But still was a little shaky, and had an issue with pigeons. For some reason, they seem to want to nest on the balcony.
Pierre Poilièvre talked with him?
Yes, I'm thinking he's sending them, because every now and then I see one on the balcony rail just like staring at me. And it's like, I know you're watching me. I see you. But no, they're trying to nest on the balcony, which is like that's not a. It's like I don't want that habit to start because I've got neighbors and
Indeed.
they would like to enjoy their balconies too. So yeah, I was chasing pigeons. Very frustrated because they do not learn quickly. Let's put it that way. All right. We're going to there's a lot to cover, so we're pretty much going to dive into it. What we're going to try to do is we're going to talk to you today because we assume that we're going to have a lot of content. So we're going to divide it, but we're going to talk to you today about Prime Minister Mark Carney and the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilièvre, and then the other parties. Hopefully, we'll be able to get to tomorrow. Right now, it's strictly the launches. I know that there were evening activities and all that kind of stuff. We can get to that, but the actual sort of official launches, it's a little different for the government when we're talking about official launches because the government has to go see the governor general and they come out and make an address of some kind. So that one's technically not the official launch because usually the person is alone at the podium when that happens and then something else happens. But Pierre also had like his official big campaign style launch in the evening, but he launched in the day as well. And when the opposition party does the launch, that is their launch when they speak for the first time. But the person that goes to see the governor general, the outgoing prime minister, they have to do that first address, right? So that's technically not officially their launch, even though it is. It's just this weird thing. But if we look at them both of them as launches, try to put them a little bit on equal footing, even though they're not exactly the same. But and for each of them, we're going to talk about a little bit of because we had a weekend before the launch, so there's some stuff that happened on Friday and whatnot. So we'll briefly go over those things and then actually get into the actual launch. So hopefully, we're doing the tell you what we're going to tell you, and then tell you what we told you type thing, and hopefully it will be clear. It's a very legal thing, right? The lawyer comes in and says, "This is what I'm going to tell you in the case." Then they tell you in the case, and then they do the summation. This is what I told you. So hopefully that will work. We're trying stuff here. Okay, so well, kids and cubs, it would appear, as we mentioned, that oh my God, you got to be kidding me!
What?
Literally. Oh, I know. Silly me. It wasn't in my draft folder because I sent it to you. It was in my outbox. Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
I was looking for where are all the notes? See, we're trying new stuff. All right. Before we get into it, though, there was two little things that I wanted to take note of that happened on Friday, and I did not know actually until later in the day. But on Friday, the 20th, it was World Down Syndrome Day.
Yes, I was not aware that this was a thing before. So I learned.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. So to a friend of the Beaver Lodge, if you're watching, Johnny, hey, was thinking about you, and I'm looking forward to see you again soon. Okay. Also, it was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, International Francophone Day as well. So, yes, Journée Internationale de la Francophonie. There are 88 states and governments over 5 continents, including subnational states, that celebrated Francophone culture and the French language on the day. And the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie represents over 300 million francophones across the world. So, c'est une langue belle que la langue de chez nous. So, happy I hope it was a happy day for all of those who are celebrating as a Franco-Ontarian myself. You know, uh, very, very proud and very happy that my mother sent me to school in full French because other than the gift of life, the gift of French, having another language and access to a whole other culture and be able to understand even like the subtleties is quite a gift. So thanks, Mom. Merci, Mama. All right. Kids and cubs, we are off. The election is underway. We had the Prime Minister of Canada take a little trip to the Governor General Sunday around noon, where he asked her to officially dissolve Parliament. She issued a proclamation on behalf of the King, and that proclamation then clears the way for the Chief Electoral Officer of Canada to actually issue the writs. And once that is done, the 45th general election was clearly underway. Now, before we get to Mr. Carney, just a little quick check-in with the polls. And I want to make it clear that the reason for which we are checking in on the polls is not to do the breathless horse race thing. Right? We'll leave that to the main networks here. But, and we don't want to influence you with the polls. We want you to make your decision based on the content. But you need to know what the public opinion polls are saying to understand the temperature of the overall bathwater or the overall water that the political sharks that we're going to talk about are swimming in right now. Because this is what we know. And then they have their internal polling that's even more detailed. And knowing where those things sit sometimes gets you to understand the behavior and the policies that you're about to see. So that's why we're giving it to you, not to say, hey, there's a big lead or not a big lead, or it's safe. And you're like this. No, regardless of what the polls say, you go vote.
Period.
Right? Period.
Just vote.
Just vote. But to understand what they're doing, you need to know what they're seeing so you can understand either the panic or the confidence. All right. So for a prime minister, as we when we left last time, he had just paid a visit to Danielle Smith. And Daniel, I don't think it went well for Danielle Smith from the way things happened. Now, one thing I did not know is that little press conference that she had, stating that there was going to be, she was going to put some special rules that were going to bind the federal government, which is not a thing because provinces cannot do that. The federal government tells provinces what to do, not the other way around, right? Just like provinces tell cities what to do and not the other way around. There is a hierarchy. So it seems that she had done a press conference with the two other people, Mr. Ellis and Mr. Amory, but that press conference was actually embargoed until the actual law was tabled. So the little clip that went out of it a few hours later was probably after they tabled it. So before she hadn't, and the reason I'm mentioning this is because it puts a little extra level of duplicitous in there, because she had the whole press conference and she was slagging him in the press conference prior to it, but that was not going to be released until they actually pretty much had met or after. So she was setting them up. She was really, really setting him up.
Oh yes. Well,
So,
and I guess it was a 15-minute interview total. That's what it was.
Something. Well, the press conference was a little longer. I think it was about half an hour. But then we found out over the course of the weekend that Danielle gave an interview to another outlet in the United States.
That's what I was referring to. Yeah, my apologies.
Yes.
I was getting them mixed up.
Yeah, to the United States. Mr. Grizzly, if you have that first image. This kind of, I am not going to go outright and say the word treason, but this looks rather treacherous.
Yeah. I think it's treasonous, but I'm not a one to discern that. I'm not a lawyer, but sounds pretty treasonous to me. It's definitely election interference.
Yes. The headline, sir, if you would like.
Exclusive. Canadian Premier Danielle Smith. Trudeau blew tariff negotiations in first Mar-a-Lago meeting.
Okay. And specifically, what she said. I can tell you, I think we got into a ditch with the very first meeting in Mar-a-Lago. I've seen the president reference many times since then the exchange, I think, 2 blunders. One was on the issue of NATO. We know the American president expects for all of the trade partners to reach their 2% NATO commitment, and Canada still hasn't committed to doing that until 2032. So I think that was one problem. And then, yes, he said tariffs would result in Canada collapsing. And I think that that was the wrong message to convey because it made us sound very, very weak. Okay. Number one, she is taking IQ 47's word that
Yes.
that conversation with Trudeau went down, that Trudeau said, well, if you impose tariffs, we'll collapse. Goal scored by the President of the United States with an assist from Danielle Smith. Here's, again, I do not understand this, and this is something that Pierre does too. How many times do we have to tell you what the hell is up with you wanting to go into a negotiation screaming to the world we're weak?
This is not
Who
a
the
good
fuck
negotiation.
does that?
It's somebody who's very stupid. Let's show them all the cards. Here's my hand.
Who does that?
Not a very smart person.
God. So then, right, she continued. She continues, blah blah blah, like this. There's those. Let's put it this way: she's trashing us.
Mm-hmm.
To the Americans, trashing Trudeau specifically, but trashing us, right? We're weak, we're this, we're that, we're this. So it's like, and then you enter the room after you said all that. It's like, what's your first thing? Then you just get on your knees and say, please, Daddy Trump, don't make it too hard. Use the leather belt instead of the switch. We're so weak. We can't stand the leather belt. Just use the switch. No, not 100 lashes, just 50. We're so weak. We can't stand it. Please have mercy. Like, what the hell negotiation position is that?
It's a terrible one.
And the line that appears to have caught everybody's attention here is this quote. So I would think that there's probably still always going to be areas that are skirmishes or disputes about particular industries when it comes to the border. But I would say on balance, the perspective that Pierre would bring would be very much in sync with, I think, the new direction in America, she added. And I think we'd have a really great relationship for the period of time they're both in. So in other words, she is telling Breitbart because Trump just went to the press and said, well, I don't know about that other guy. He doesn't say nice things about me. So, I think I want the liberals to win. And it's like, and I'm sitting there and thinking like, that was really weird. And I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that smells like Danielle advice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I was like, it really smacks like Danielle went down to talk to some of those IQ 47 officials and said, hey, guys, listen, man, like our guy is like blowing it. I guess, and the association with you is really not helping. So if you could just like tamp it down for a little bit, I guess, until he wins.
Mm-hmm.
And then I promise you, I and him will help you hollow out Canada. But for now, like this. And then I saw this thing, right, where Doug Ford's coming out and said, oh, Lutnick has really tamped down his stuff too. So let's say, are Doug and Danielle actually on opposite teams or are they on the same one? Not sure. I mean, we do want Lutnick to tamp it down. Freaking loudmouth. We're just blah, 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 blah. But this Danielle Smith, there's nice nasty, and then there's a version of that is called Samaritan Snake. And Danielle Smith loves to engage in nice nasty. But this time, She went into Samaritan snake. Danielle Smith is trying to present this as her doing something that's for the good of the country. But I'm just trying to defend her. It's like, no, you are selling us out.
Completely.
So it would seem that this is something that is going to create some issues on the campaign. It is not going to be just a one-day story. So you need to take Danielle Smith and how it is that she's probably going to be playing some type of role in this election, and I put that on your conspiracy theory board with the thumbtack and a piece of string because that's going to keep on popping up. Now, Mr. Grizzly, if we have the other image, Danielle Smith really did not like that being the narrative. She bolted pretty darn quickly, and in Danielle Smith true form. Mr. Grizzly.
Offensive and false. Alberta Premier's office denies Smith urged U.S. to interfere in federal election.
Now notice it's the office of Danielle Smith and not herself, right, who
Yes.
vehemently denied this.
Smith told U.S. officials she hoped they'd put tariffs on pause until after the election.
Mm-hmm. And then any suggestion that Smith asked U.S. to interfere in Canada's election is offensive and false, her press secretary Sam Blackett told CBC News in a statement. Well, I guess she didn't, technically she didn't ask them to interfere. She asked them to stop interfering. But just for now. So I guess technically, they're telling the truth. Technically.
I mean,
come on.
Let's split hairs, right?
Right. The longer this dispute goes on, politicians posture, and it seems to be benefiting the Liberals right now, Smith told Breitbart. Let's just put things on pause so we can get through an election, he said. Let's have the best person at the table make the argument for how they would deal with it. And I think that's Conservative leader Pierre Poilièvre. She went on to agree with the host, saying that if Poilièvre was Canada's prime minister, the two countries could partner, quote, on a number of things, so specific, and that she believes they'd have a great relationship with Poilièvre while Poilièvre and Trump served. It's like, come on, man. Come on. And then it's like, people are like trying to make excuse. I think she was just answering a question that she was asked. Yeah, she was just answering, but I mean, the problem is the answer. I was just answering yes, but in the answer, you're selling out your country. It's not just answering. So it's funny how they like to just like, oh, it's not so bad. She was just answering a question. That's not so bad. It was just a joke. That's not so bad. Oh my God.
You know, that time I asked a foreign country to interfere in our election? Yeah, not that bad. Not that bad.
Yeah. Now that an election has been called, I would reiterate my hope that the United States would refrain from placing tariffs on their closest ally, our largest trading partner, during the middle of the election. So yeah, there we go. So yeah, she's sticking her nose everywhere where it doesn't belong.
Well,
now,
and the dirty politicking is really underway. If you've seen some of the recent, photoshopped AI stuff.
Yep. Which we told you was going to happen, right? And that issue, that Photoshop stuff, things making people look like they're in pornographic situations and all that type of stuff. It's starting. Meanwhile, soon after that, the Prime Minister of Canada had the First Minister's meeting, at which Danielle Smith was not present. Now, she did patch in via video, but her priority was to spend some time with Mr. Shapiro.
Oh, yes.
It seems that meeting was particularly productive. So that's kind of good. And the Prime Minister seems to be attracting star candidates, as I mentioned, right? You probably see some announcements, people after people. One of the examples being used is in the riding that was occupied by former Minister of Labour Seamus O'Regan
Hmm.
in Newfoundland and Labrador. Apparently, they couldn't find anybody to run. And then things started to turn. Now, all of a sudden, they have 5 very qualified candidates who won it. And I believe the person that secured it is a former Minister of Finance for the province of Newfoundland and Labrador. Oh, wow. And apparently in the province of Quebec, they have Carlos Leitao, who's another financial group. It seems that he's all of a sudden picking up a lot of people. He also announced that he would be running in the riding of Nepean in Ottawa. And that's a little interesting because the riding of Nepean was the riding that used to be held by Mr. Arya Chandra,
Hmm.
who did not have his nomination papers signed.
Yeah.
Called it.
The amount of rumors floating about that I've read online, and I think Ruby Dalla actually
Oh, of course.
retweeted one of them. It's like, why are you ripping Canadians off to the tune of $700,000? Okay, Chandra Arya never submitted
He
$350,000.
never did.
And Ruby Dalla knew that it was non-refundable.
Yes.
That was the contract you agreed to.
She signed.
You signed it. You agreed to it. So stop whining and complaining.
She's basically, if you're paying attention, she's basically arguing that she was too incompetent to sign the contract.
Yeah.
But
I
I
want the
expect
money back. No, you don't
But
get
it
it
says-
back. We told
It says
you
here in
that.
black. Yeah, it says here in black and white that you don't. It's like, but I want it back. Okay, you signed something saying that you're not, and now you're expecting it. Did you fall and bump your head? Are you okay, hun? Because right now you're telling people you don't understand what you read and you sign things that you do not understand you read. And if that's the case, thank goodness you're not Prime Minister. If you cannot understand what it is that you sign, you probably should not be running for Prime Minister.
Just
Not that
gonna
we do
put
that in
out
Canada.
there. Yeah, it's if you don't know what you signed.
Yeah. Again,
Trying to create a false narrative is what she's doing.
but see, this is what I mean. It's like, what are you, in order to be able to have this moment in the spotlight, this is what she's trading off.
Hmm.
It's like, she's in the hotel sort of business, whatnot. She's a business person, and she's telling the entire business community that I signed things and don't understand what I've read before I sign them. Play the long game, girl. Play the long game.
Maybe read a document before you sign it, especially when it comes to $350,000 payout.
But it's like, also think through your strategy.
Mhm.
If you say, when you say X, it
Mhm.
also means Y. You're also saying something else, right? It's
Well,
that whole expression, like if I'm pointing a finger at someone, right? There's 4 more pointing back or something. When you say something, there's the thing that you say, but for that to be true, other things need to be true, and you're saying those things too.
and look, let's go back to the beginning here when it comes to the $350,000 entrance fee. I vehemently disagreed with it,
Mhm.
but I understood why it was in place.
Mhm.
I disagreed with it because somebody like me could never run for that position
Mhm.
ever. Because how am I going to come up? I barely afford to pay my rent. How am I going to come up with $350,000? So it eliminates a pathway for the average Canadian to ever get into politics, and in that respect, from a leadership position. And just entering in to run for a member of parliament is difficult enough as it is on its own.
Mhm.
So the pathway for an average Canadian to get there, it's not blocked, but the access is extremely limited. So
Mhm.
I disagreed with it, but I understood it. I
Yeah.
understood why they did it.
But here's the thing again, right? Look at liberals and conservatives. Liberals had a very, very short window,
Mhm.
had to do it fast, don't want to have a lot of distraction and noise, just high quality candidates, $350,000. The conservative leadership race that Pierre won in 2022 with no election coming
Mhm.
anytime soon, that was 300,000.
Right. No big mess about that.
They
Nobody
had
talked
all
about
the
that.
time in the world
Yeah.
to organize that one.
Yeah,
There was
because
no
there was no
rush.
Parliament wasn't prorogued and the Prime Minister wasn't stepping down. There was,
Yeah.
they had all the time in the world, like you said. And $300,000 again, it's a barricade to the average Canadian.
So that was done to make sure Pierre didn't have competition from a source that wasn't as well financed, but that would come across better.
Mm-hmm.
This one is, we got to do this the fastest leadership race in our party's history. I was like, let's just cut to the chase and let's get to the queen that'll rise to the top now.
And this is also, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't this
and we had 4 quality candidates.
Isn't this the shortest federal election?
It's the shortest possible, yes.
Yes, shortest possible, yes. Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the shortest ever, but it's the shortest possible that was available. So he had the meeting with the first ministers. Because it seems to have gone really well. Even with Danielle, apparently everybody signed on to the communique this time. So already that's an improvement. Because last time there was a first ministers meeting, Danielle wouldn't sign on to the communique. Just saying. And then there was a whole slew of announcements that came along, right? There's a GST cut on houses of $1 million or less. There was the expansion of the dental care program. It's going to open up sometime in May for people who are 18 to 64 living in households that net $90,000 or less per year. He announced that he was going to invest $200 million in a new LNG project. As Pierre is saying, hey, Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines project is happening. And it seems that there was some type of agreement between the premiers among a whole bunch of other things to try to establish some pre-cleared trade corridors or something like that for type of and resource transportation corridors. So basically, they would do all the approvals, whatnot, for a stretch of land that these things could be built on, and like this. And then, when it come to the time, we can build the projects more quickly because the environmental assessments and all that kind of stuff for the lands on which all these things would pass would have already been pre-done and pre-cleared. So, some interesting concepts here. But the best part of the whole writ stuff for Mark Carney was a little thing that he did with someone who recently was on Saturday Night Live. Mr. Grizzly, if you would, because I'm sure you've seen this and you have some thoughts about this.
Sorry, I muted myself there for a moment. I have seen this, and we'll share it with you right now in case you haven't seen it. It's an interesting little video. Enjoy.
Let's go. Mr. Prime Minister, Mike Myers, what are you doing here?
I just thought I'd come up and check on things.
You live in the States.
Yeah, but I'll always be Canadian.
But you live in the States.
Yeah, so?
Do you remember Mr. Dressup?
The children's show on CBC?
What were the names of Mr. Dressup's 2 puppet friends?
Casey and Finnegan?
Bud
Spud?
Howie?
Meeker?
Capital Saskatchewan?
Regina?
Tragically?
Pip?
You're a defenseman, defending a 2-on-1. What do?
Take away the pass, obviously.
What are the 2 seasons in Toronto?
Winter and construction.
Wow. You really are Canadian.
Yeah. But let me ask you, Mr. Prime Minister, will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right. Elbows up.
Elbows up.
And for those who haven't seen it, at the end, they catch them from the back, and Michael Myers turns around, and he's wearing a number 51, and last name is Never.
Yes, Never 51. The amount of bizarre commentary on that video from bots and trolls is just mind-numbing. I'm like...
Yeah, I know.
I'm reading through some of them, and I'm like, there's some really disturbed human beings in this world, along with a entire bot army and troll army, period. Yeah. It's just...
The funniest one I saw was somebody going like, oh, the acting is terrible. And it's like, dude, it's not Gone with the Wind. It's not the Shawshank Redemption here. it's a political ad. How much depth do you want? Now, strategically, though, Mr. Grizzly, right? The big question with Mark Carney is that he's a banker. He must be dry. And, this question that they always turn around and say, like, would you like to have a beer with them?
Yeah.
Look at this, what Mr. Carney's putting out, and then look what Pierre has been putting out for the last little while. And who would you want to have beer with? The guy that sits and makes this type of clip with Mike Myers, playing on the fact the conservatives say, hey, he called himself a European. He's not really Canadian when he lived away to be the governor of the Bank of Canada. And then Mike Myers is like, well, wait a minute. Say, but you live in the States. Mark Carney is playing on the attack against him.
Yes.
That he lived elsewhere, so he's not really one of us.
It's brilliant. I'm
it's
always
brilliant.
going to be Canadian. Well, there's some of the blowback. Well, Mike Myers bragged about being an American citizen. Yeah. And Andrew Scheer is an American citizen.
Stéphane Dion was a French citizen, so was Michael Jean. You can be Canadian and something else. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's the mosaic.
I'm like...
I know. But here I'm sitting there like this. Okay. Mark Carney at the rink with Mike Myers or Pierre Poilièvre in front of a homeless encampment in BC. Who do you want to have a beer with?
Yeah, no kidding.
I want to have a freaking picture with Carney.
We'll invite him down for a pubcast.
Jeez. So strategically, again, very good. Again, this guy is nailing it.
Mm-hmm.
He's too stuffy. He has no sense of humor. He has no personality. Can't relate to the average person. The guy just did a skit with the guy who invented Wayne's World.
Right. I mean...
And Austin Powers.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you. Oh, behave. All right. So that's the pre-writ. Then the writ is dropped. And drawn, not dropped. You drop a beat, you draw a writ.
True, but everybody says the writ has been dropped. It's true,
yes.
though.
I only learned that this year, too.
Trudeau.
It's Trudeau. I only learned that this year. Somebody, I was listening to a podcast, so everybody says drop, but it's actually drawn. So really? Drawn? Really? I've dropped all my life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say it the right way then. Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, when you hear it the wrong way all the time, it's easy to get it into the common vernacular because that's just,
Oh, yeah.
Like the word, people will say the word irregardless. That's not a word. The word is regardless.
Yep.
Irregardless is not a word.
Yep. I was having that discussion with my beaver sweetie yesterday. He was talking about fomenting something. I'm going, fomenting? I was like, you mean fomenting? No, fomenting. And then I showed him, like, no, fomenting. I said, it's like, sweetie, it's like, when are you going to, words are my life. Trust me, it's fomenting.
Fomenting.
I was like, oh, but I like fomenting better. It's cute. I know, but you're a scientist. It's like a mix between fomenting and fermenting. Yes. But it's
one of those ones you should probably have the correct nomenclature.
But we all have them, right? For the longest time, I thought it was mischievous and not mischievous.
Yes,
right? We all have them. We all have them. But once you know.
Petri dish. It's actually Petri dish.
See, I did not know that.
Yeah. Well, we hear Americans pronounce it, and then it gets into our vernacular, but it's Petri dish. That's the proper pronunciation, along with aluminium. It's not aluminum, it's aluminium. But we all say aluminum, but I say aluminium. I also say vitamins, and it really upsets a lot of people, but I don't care.
Or controversy. Mr. Grizzly, if you would, we have the clip here, and we're going to, even though the day's events did not start with Prime Minister Mark Carney speaking, as they should have, because somebody could not wait his turn. We are going to be respectful, and we are going to present the comments of the Prime Minister first, as you should have seen them, and then the other guy.
Mark Carney here in the podium at Rideau Hall. Let's listen in now.
Welcome, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. 2 months ago, I was at a rink in Edmonton where I'd learned to play hockey. And that's about as far as you can get from the grandeur of Rideau Hall. And I was there because I was putting up my hand to run for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada. And I was doing that because I knew our country needed to take action. We needed to act to fix our economy. We needed to act to fight the Americans. We needed to act to deal with Donald Trump's tariffs.
9 days ago, our new government was sworn in, and we immediately decided to act. This week, we reached an agreement on national defense with Australia to protect Canada. We strengthened our security relationship with France and the United Kingdom to protect Canadians. We launched discussions on a new trade agreement with the European Union to provide more assistance to Canadian business.
We eliminated the tax on carbon for consumers, for small businesses, and for farmers, to end the division that it was creating amongst Canadians. Because we are stronger together. We reversed the increase in the capital gains tax so that builders are encouraged to take risks and be rewarded when they succeed. When I met with the premiers in Ottawa on Friday, we agreed to eliminate barriers to trade and mobility inside our country. And the federal government is leading by committing to legislate the end of all federal barriers to interprovincial trade by July 1st. Together, we will push to create one Canadian economy by Canada Day, because we are stronger together. This past week, we acted to protect workers, using the proceeds of our retaliatory tariffs against America's unjustified trade actions. We acted to unlock major infrastructure projects and get them moving rapidly, including clean and conventional energy, critical minerals, and new trade corridors with reliable trading partners. We acted to create new supports for farmers and businesses during this trade war.
That was a nice dig.
We expanded dental care for millions of more Canadians. And we took all of these actions and more to create the foundation to build a stronger Canada. There is so much more to do to secure Canada, to invest in Canada, to build Canada, to unite Canada. That's why I'm asking for a strong, positive mandate from my fellow Canadians. I've just requested that the Governor-General dissolve Parliament and call an election for April 28th.
Wow. He's done an awful lot in a very short time period, hasn't he?
Yes, I was hoping you'd say that.
I mean, he's done more in 9 days than Pierre Poilièvre has done in 20 plus years.
I was hoping you'd say that. I was wondering what your reaction would be.
Seriously. Hey, I've already marked my calendar for May 1st. So I can sign up for the dental program. It's 55 and up. Well, I'll be 57 in July, so I qualify. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to go to a dentist and not go bankrupt in the process.
Okay, so I actually didn't see those details. So between the 18 to 64 age, they're also going to put them in layers then to bring people
Correct,
in.
yeah. It starts May 1st is for 55 to 64, and then May 15th is 54 to 34, I believe, and then so on and so forth.
Okay, so the phase-in is going to be really quick then.
Very quick. very quick,
Okay.
actually. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, and I mean, I think now, and tell me if I'm wrong, they've been at this since 2023. So I think they've figured it out.
Yeah. Well, with the initial phases, right? There were some dentists signing on, and then there was a little difficulty because the program was a little too cumbersome paperwork-wise, and then they talked to them and found
Exactly.
ways to simplify it, and then more people came, and now it's just running. Now it's just making sure that they're not flooded with too many people at once so that they're able to take the people on.
Well, and if you earn under 90,000, well, yeah, that's
But that's
pretty
about
easy for me.
that's about 4.5 million Canadians who are going to
You
get
do
access to
realize
this benefit this year.
90,000 is about the middle class cutoff.
Right.
If you earn less than 90,000, you are not middle class, you're working class.
Yes, indeed. Now, I'm glad you noticed that because that was my impression too. It's like that, like there were some things in there that I hadn't even heard of yet, and I'm following this like a hawk.
He's accomplished a lot in a very short time period.
A lot.
Well, and I would expect that because he is not a lifelong politician. So he's not going to banter about. He's like, let's make this decision and let's make it quick and let's make it happen. And it seems to be that people are going, yeah, okay, this works. They're not doing the politicking thing about it.
Right.
They're just making it happen. Now, there are some things that legislation takes time. It has to work its way through. There's a process. And I understand all of that. But he's doing the decisive things that he can do right now to make things better for the average Canadian.
And making groundwork laying decisions for when the House opens and legislation can be tabled, that it's there rather than waiting for the House to open. Now let's start discussing it.
Well, didn't Pierre Poilièvre say he would kill the dental program? He voted against it.
He voted against it. He hasn't said, there's no video and there's no written statement of him saying I would get rid of it. Like his thing was always like, well, it doesn't exist yet until a couple of people started receiving the service, and now it does exist. Well, they haven't deployed it for everyone, so he hasn't. The suggestion is, and I do not believe he would keep it if he had his druthers, but I don't think he will say it because that means you want to campaign on taking dental care away from seniors and children, and conservatives, well, they really like seniors because they love fleecing them, and turning around saying, "Now I want to campaigning on wanting to take a benefit away from children," usually does not go well. So this is probably one of those types of things that he doesn't want to do a full-throated statement on, but watch your back for knives, pretty much. So I'm glad that you said that. And Kits and Cubs, I do want you to, if you can, remember, if not all the elements on the list, just remember that there was a long list because that will come up again in the question and answer period that he will refer to. It will refer to it.
This comment here from Linda says, my husband hasn't paid a cent for dental work since he qualified for the dental program. I'm like, okay, because I don't know how it works. I know it's dental coverage. I don't know how it works. I'm assuming it's similar to OHIP. And I would assume in Ontario, it would be just show your OHIP card, your provincial health insurance card. I'm assuming. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how it works. So I don't know if you get a Canada dental benefit card or something, but because and I won't qualify because I do have coverage. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it works in real life. But like I said, those who've tried it appear to like it and like it a lot.
Yes, I've not heard anything bad about the program. I'm sure somebody somewhere had a bad experience. There's law of averages. There's got to be, right?
Got to be.
But for the most part, I've had people say I've been to the dentist for the first time in X number of years because I simply couldn't afford to do it. And the thing was, they wanted to put dental coverage in universal health care at the beginning, but they couldn't get a dentist to sign on to it. So they said, okay, look, let's do this in increments. Let's start with what we have and we'll work towards that. It only took like 60 years, but
Yeah. Now, the important caveat here for those of you who will be qualifying, remember, because we said this before, but we have to remind you, the amount that you get as coverage is the amount that you get as coverage. It's not a rate that the dentist is supposed to charge and not beyond. So your dentist may charge more, right? And you will have to cover the difference, right? But you will still get the full amount of that benefit.
Right.
Right. But just to know, because some people at the beginning, said, "Hey, wait a minute, I still got somewhat of a bill." It's like the legislation and the plan does not bind the dentists to charging that amount or less.
Well, Linda's saying
yet that much going towards it.
Linda says her husband has had cleanings, fillings, repaired a broken tooth. It covers root canals, crowns, and dentures. She says the dental program covers more than my private insurance did when I had it. I'm like, that's good, because as I explained in this program, when we were a small company of 75 people and we got bought out by a bigger one to a company of 1,200, my dental program that I had with the small company covered more. It gave me a stipend of, I think, $1,500 a year is what it covered. And then we went to the new, bigger company. I thought, okay, this should improve. No, it diminished. It cost me more, and I only got $1,200. And the thing was, it was a reimbursement program, not a direct billing. So you had to pay up front and then file through your private insurance company to get coverage, which, oh boy.
Yeah.
They make it difficult intentionally so that you are dissuaded from filing.
Yeah.
And it's literally, they have the worst web interface I've ever seen in my life. It looks like something from 1994, and it is horribly designed, and it is intentionally done that way to dissuade you from filling it out. Yes.
Yeah. Make the announcement, get the benefit, but you don't want to spend too much money, so make it very, very difficult or cumbersome to use, so that fewer people use it, and therefore, you have the coverage. It's there, like this one. Oh, look how much we say. Look how much look at only what we spend on it. Aren't we efficient and good managers? Stuff like that. Wow. Everybody's going, yeah, but I can't use the damn thing.
Well, and the worst part is, again, you pay for it.
Yep.
I was paying for it through my company. It was like I paid something like $120 a month for this. And I only got $1,200 a year in dental coverage. I'm like, doing the math here. And
you pay more than you got.
Yeah. Now it cost me $5 for my prescriptions, but I'm going to sign up for Trillium and then not worry about it.
Yep.
And a question here from Empty Nest Gardens. What about the 20-plus-year-olds working jobs, no benefits, struggling to pay rent? They will be getting coverage. It's coming by June.
18. It's going to cover anyone 18 to 64.
Yes.
So we've covered all the kids. We've covered seniors and people with, and certain other specific groups. But now it's general population of average or regular health, 18 to 64, coming up. Now, we'll continue with Mr. Carney's comments, and I would like you to pay attention to the very interesting twist on a national unity message and the difference in rhetoric versus, Mark Carney's famous line, there's what we can control, what we can't control, versus Pierre Poilièvre's line that we're helpless.
And she has agreed. We are facing the most significant crisis of our lifetimes because of President Trump's unjustified trade actions and his threats to our sovereignty. Our response must be to build a strong economy and a more secure Canada. President Trump claims that Canada isn't a real country. He wants to break us so America can own us. We will not let that happen. We're over the shock of the betrayal, but we should never forget the lessons. We have to look out for ourselves. We have to look out for each other. We know
that we must look after each other, that we cannot control the U.S. president, but we can control our own destiny. We are masters in our own home.
We can control our destiny. We can have a new Canada built by us, for us. We can give ourselves more than any foreign government can take away. And the best way we can deal with this crisis is to build our strength here at home and help people who will be hit hardest by these tariffs. That's the right thing to do. That's the fair thing to do. That's the Canadian thing to do. That's what makes us strong. As part of that strategy, today I'm proposing a middle-class tax cut to help all working Canadians get ahead. We will cut the lowest income tax bracket by 1 percentage point for a middle-class tax cut that will benefit a two-income family by up to $825 a year.
I welcome that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that's going to help me, but I welcome it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all about me either. If rising tide lifts all boats, so yeah, I welcome it, and I think it will help a lot of people. Another $800 in your pocket makes a difference, right? I don't know how it would affect me at all, to be honest with you. But again, the greater good.
Yeah. So yesterday it was a bit of a battle of competing tax cuts because at the evening rally that Pierre had, he proposed a tax cut that would return something like $2,000, which that might be a lot because there are, if you count the number of households that are in Canada, and if he's taken 2,000 fewer from each of them, that's a big chunk of change.
Oh yes.
And now, of course, Pierre has indicated that he will probably be getting a lot of that money from the tariffs because he wants to take the tariff money and spread it around as a tax cut rather than using the money and helping the people and the industries that are more directly affected. So maybe that's where he's getting the money to fund it all the way up to $2,000. But then that would not, how would I put it? That would probably not be sustainable for a great period of time. And the other thing that we have to remember is that lately, when conservatives have been promising tax cuts, they get into power and they say, "Oh yeah, that tax cut, we don't seem to have the money for it just now." And then they wait until they're in a big scandal, like the AHS scandal, and all of a sudden, "Oh well, look at that, we found the money for the tax cut." So we need the campaign on the tax cut because of affordability, but they deliver it to you 2 years later. Come on. So I'll need to be able to go back into detail to find out more about the tax cut itself, but it's the lowest bracket by 1 percentage point. A dual income family, about $825 a year. So, I mean, I think everybody, if you're just paying, I guess, in the lowest bracket, I guess that's one. But I guess everybody gets that 1% on the lowest bracket.
I would assume.
But I guess I guess it does become moot if you pass the bracket. Then it's right. Everything after that, that dollar amount
plus $1,000 a year. I think you're going to
every
be
dollar after the amount, right? Yeah.
Well, it's the amount of people I've recently spoken with who said, "I paid over $100,000 in taxes last year. I'm being taxed to death." I'm like, if you're paying that much, you're earning about $350,000 plus. I think you're going to be okay.
Exactly. So basically, the first tax bracket based on 2024 is salary up to $55,867 household income. So if you're making that or less, instead of 15%, it'll be 14%.
Okay.
If you make more than that, then I guess technically, I mean, you're still charged 14% on that, but then you're still going to be charged 20.5 on any,
anything above,
anything above that. So you probably don't see a specific benefit. But I have absolutely no problem with people in the lowest tax bracket getting a little more.
No kidding.
Again, understands me, understands my problems. The banker? Well, the banker wants to give a tax cut to the people in the lowest tax bracket rather than the highest?
Wow. So
Really?
An actual human being. I think we need to, because right now, jog my memory if memory serves. if I recall correctly, earnings under $20,000 are not taxed, correct? Federally?
Yes, I
Because
think
there's a
so. I will
provincial
look
and
at
a
that.
federal, and I can't remember what the numbers are, but I think it's 20,000. I think that needs to be raised. I mean,
Yeah. I'm not sure what that is. I'll try to look that up, how much you can make in Canada before paying taxes. The basic Ontario basic personal amount is $12,399, while the federal basic personal amount is $15,705. So basically, anybody making between 15,705 and 55,000 whatnot will get a 1% cut on their basic tax. That will not be. Listen. It's not rolling in it, but it will help.
it'll help.
And yeah. So let's continue here up until I'm not sure if we're done. Are we at 238.39, Mr. Grizzly?
No, we're at 236.15.
Okay. So let's go to 236.40. Yeah. So, no worries.
15. Yeah.
We are
to it. Yeah, we're at 236.15. So you want to go to 45? No problem.
Yeah, to 45 because he's just repeating the tax cut announcement in French there, and then continue on. He's continuing on. Okay. Now he's going to give. This is a little bit of a couple of minutes of him just sort of like explain that he understands the lay of the land here.
For a strong, positive mandate to deal with President Trump and to build a new Canadian economy that works for everyone. Because I know we need change. Big change. Positive change. You see, my generation was fortunate. For us, there were more opportunities and life was more affordable. You had to work hard, but you could get ahead. That was the bargain. But for the generations that have followed, they're working just as hard or even harder than we did. But they're struggling to pay the rent, to put groceries on the table, and to save for their kids' educations.
I spent all my career understanding how the world works and how it can work better for us to allow us to benefit the most. That has been our priority these last 9 days, and that will always be the priority of our new government. The challenge is significant, but I want all Canadians to understand that we have everything we need to succeed right here in Canada. If we have the right plan, and if we work together, because building a strong Canada helps everyone, and we will have to show leadership.
I think what Empty Nest Gardens was saying right here is rather poignant. This part of his speech was wonderful acknowledgement of Gen X versus Gen Z.
Right.
Yes. And he is first year Gen X, so he's just on the edge of boomer, but he is Gen X, like myself. He's 3 years older than me, 3.5 years older than me, but the opportunity was there. He is correct. I do remember a time when, and I'm talking 1980, somebody earning minimum wage in 1980 could afford to save enough money to get a down payment to buy a house. And a lot of people did. It was a livable wage. That was, and this is what everybody seems to fail to understand. Minimum wage is not the minimum legal amount you should be paid. It's the minimum you need to have a living wage.
That's what it should be.
That's what it is
now.
No, it's far from that now. CERB was not a living wage. CERB worked out to about $12 an hour. People go, well, people could just get CERB instead of going to work. I'm like, yeah, but if the minimum wage in Ontario is $17.20 right now, it went up recently, $17.20 versus $12, that extra $5 an hour is going to add up, and it's not going to be eaten in taxes because CERB was also taxed. Remember that.
Yeah. Now, there was the mitigating argument during that time because it costs money to go to work.
Yes.
Wear and tear on your car, gas, your public transport there, dry cleaning, if you're brown bagging it, if you're taking lunch out, all this type of stuff. So that money you didn't have to spend anymore. So you didn't necessarily need as much, but it costs money to work.
It does. It does.
Right? A lot of people forget that when they're planning. But conservatives love to forget that when they're planning for you.
No kidding. And that's the absolute truth. It costs you money to go to work, like it or not.
Daycare. That would be the big one, right? Now, Mr. Grizzly, we get to the best part of this presentation because I believe that the Prime Minister calls out Pierre, and I think he does it in a way that you will like.
So I desperately need a coffee, but I'm going to watch this first because this is just chef's kiss is what this is.
It's easy to be negative about everything when you've never fixed anything. It's easy to be negative about everything when you've never built anything, when you've never had to make a payroll. But negative slogans aren't solutions. Anger isn't action. Division isn't strength. Negativity won't win a trade war. Negativity won't pay the rent or the mortgage. Negativity won't bring down the price of groceries. And negativity won't make Canada strong. Nous avons vu où la négativité
we have seen
ont mené les États-Unis.
How negativity and division have that has led to in the United States. We are stronger when we are united.
Parce qu'ils ne le sont plus.
We will not allow ourselves to be weaker. So let us unite in this time of crisis.
I love Canada. Our country has given me everything. I stood up in Edmonton 2 months ago, and I'm standing here today because I want to give it all back to Canada. So that every Canadian kid, whether they're growing up in Nanaimo or Montreal or St. John or Scarborough or Inuvik, has the same opportunities that I had.
I believe him. I think he's sincere in this. I genuinely believe that. I think that's why he got into politics. Sorry, I just had to say that. I couldn't hold my tongue on that. We'll continue for a couple more seconds here.
The same hope, the same confidence in a brighter future. It's time for all of us to come together and be strong. So I'm asking for your vote so we can be Canada strong. Un Canada fort. Vive le Canada.
Long live Canada.
And with that, I'd be pleased to take your question.
All right. How's that for finish?
Yeah.
I wonder who he was talking about when he was talking about who's Mr. Negative.
Everything is broken. Only I can fix it.
But then you see how he gives himself some nice little plausible deniability because he's talking about negative. We've seen where negativity leads in division in the States. It's almost like, you're so vain. You probably think this attack is about you. To Pierre. It's like, and it is. He just puts that little flip at the end just to say, oh, no, I wasn't talking about you, Pierre. Was that? You good?
I got to grab a coffee. I'll be right back. Sorry, I need
right.
one. I'll be right back.
Absolutely. So, initial pitch, right? All the things I said. He's a banker. He's cold. He cannot possibly understand what life is like for people like me. He certainly couldn't understand what life is like for people my age. If you're a millennial or younger, right? Let's say 30 and under, 35 and under even. He's too stiff. It wouldn't be very fun. Yeah. He's been taking the notes. It's clear he's been taking notes. He's been working on it. You can see it. And the package, the original pitch here, is designed to actually address all of those initial criticisms. Now, when you look at it all together, right, here are all the things that we've done in my first 9 days, right? I'm up for the job. I'm doing it. Look, I am on top of it. Then, right, we are not helpless. The other guy's going to tell you you're helpless. We are not helpless. Not only are we not helpless, but we can give ourselves more than anybody can take away from us. But we got to do it together. And then, as something he said before, right? Many times when he first came in to this whole thing, Canada has given me everything I want to give back.
I agree.
Remember that line, because he's been saying it consistently from the beginning. Remember that line because it comes up again later. Right? So now we get to the Q&A. Now the Q&A with the thing that happened with Rosie Barton. By the way, if you listened to the House, Rosie Barton clearly did not like the criticism because although she did make the point of saying that Carney was not like Trudeau and he was different, she did make the point, says, but when you ask him about his integrity and his values and whatnot like this, he can tend to get a little prickly.
Yeah, but you're attacking his integrity. So yeah, I would get prickly too.
But you pricked him. Right? Now, so the questions that are coming, especially the first few, I have an impression that now they're not out of line, right? But they are not terse, but very tightly put together. The first ones, and they are not easy questions, but I have no problem with them. Because these are legit questions based on legit things that for which we have evidence and we see things in observable reality that would naturally prompt the question. Whereas the other one wasn't. The other one was, well, you're a banker. I find it hard to believe that you don't have some type of conflict. Right? And not some type of conflict like, well, yes, of course, there will be a conflict, right? I mean, just Brookfield. I guess he's going to need a screen for Brookfield for sure because he was involved in the past. I mean, that goes, I guess, but that he actually has, when we say conflict, not that, oh, yes, I work for a media station and, and I'm manning, I don't know, a poll station like this. I cannot comment on the election in terms of a media person for like 48 hours, or if I'm working the early voting for the entire 9 or 10 days. I got to talk about other things on my show because, or I'm in a conflict, right? So that is the conflict situation. But I haven't actually engaged or found myself in a conflict until I violate the rule, right? So when we talk about conflict, there's two, like, yes, there's a conflict in terms of the situation, and then there's you're being in conflict because you actually did something wrong. So here we mean conflict because just the situation, but he's made sure they sell all the screens for that. So the question of conflict from Barton was asked with the, you got something going on, and not just, well, of course, you know, anybody who enters politics, who holds any type of ETF or stock or whatnot like this, has a conflict. Right? So, but you take steps to make sure that you resolve that before it starts, like this, and then hopefully you are no longer in conflict. So the questions will be, like this, sharper. Sharper is the word that I'm looking for, but justified in this case. And I think it was done to sort of like test them. Oh, you were prickly this time. Well, let's see if you get prickly here again. See if you handle it. So they're giving it. Some people might balk or bristle, but again, these things are always an opportunity. They are giving him an opportunity to show that he cannot be prickly, rather than trying to needle him to see if he will be prickly again. Depends on how you look at it.
I just want folks to take note of the descriptor on the screen. It says Liberal Party leader, because he is no longer the Prime Minister.
Right.
He was the Prime Minister for what, 9 days?
9 days.
When you go to the Governor General and ask them to dissolve Parliament, you are no longer the Prime Minister. You are just the party leader.
Because we officially enter caretaker mode. Now we are in caretaker mode. For all the people who've been screaming about this since March 9th, now we are in caretaker mode.
We are now. We hadn't been up until yesterday at noon when the writ was drawn.
Yes.
Okay, let's have a listen.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll begin our question period. We'll take 15 minutes of question, one follow-up. Merci. On va prendre 15 minutes de questions, une question et une question de suivi. Première question.
Good afternoon, Tonda McCharles with the Toronto Star. Sir, why are you throwing the country into an election in the middle of a tariff war? And if you think it's so necessary now, then why not make it longer so Canadians can really test drive you to see if you represent the change you claim to represent?
Well, a couple of things, Tonda. First is that we have put in place a tremendous amount of change in the 9 days that I have been Prime Minister. That includes changes to taxes, including the announcement today of a middle-class tax cut. But very importantly, we put in place protections for workers. So we made a commitment right from the start that we would use all revenues from retaliatory tariffs to protect our workers. And we put in place changes to the EI system in order to do that. I note that Mr. Poilièvre has taken that money and said he will use it for a tax cut. Doesn't care about workers being in place. We put in place protections for businesses through this period. We have shown the scale of our ambition in terms of creating what Canadians have asked for. And I've heard this time and time again across this great country. Canadians want one Canadian economy, not 13. They want us to break down those barriers. So we brought together the first ministers, the premiers of the provinces. We hammered out a consensus about achieving that. We're picking up on the model that Nova Scotia and others have put in place. We're making a commitment at the federal level to legislate the removal of all these barriers by Canada Day, so we can have free trade by Canada Day. So we've done a lot, I could go on, but we've done a lot in the 9 days to put in place many of the foundations. But what's important is that the government has a mandate from the Canadian people to finish the job of building that Canadian economy, to finish the job of diversifying our trading partners, and to have a strong mandate to stand up to Donald Trump and the Americans and negotiate the best deal for Canadians. And that's what I will do.
After that meeting Friday night, you said you linked Pierre Poilièvre's Conservatives to Elon Musk and Donald Trump's approach to cutting taxes, regulations, foreign aid. Mr. Poilièvre's just staked out his own platform pitch to Canadians right now, today saying that he will stand up to Trump, that a Liberal's still just a Liberal. So on what basis can you fairly compare the Canadian Conservatives to Trump-style Republican Conservatives?
Well, first, the comparisons are quite easy. You look at the language mirrors, and the track record of language stretches back over years. It's not a recent phenomenon. So straight from the language, number one. Secondly, from the intention. So Elon Musk stands up and says, and the Trump administration eliminates foreign aid. Within a few days, Pierre Poilièvre flies in and out of Nunavut and says, I'm going to eliminate foreign aid. By the way, doesn't talk to the Premier, doesn't talk to local Indigenous leaders while he's there, not our approach, obviously. So a series of words plus proposals which are uncannily familiar with the proposals of the Trump administration. Very different from our approach. Very different from approach, for example, to building a housing market, both offering much greater supply. Very different from our approach. I'll give you one last example because I know there's a long lineup of questions. Today, we announced that we are going to expand dental care. Now, the dental care program that was put in place several months ago now serves 1.8 million Canadians. 1.8 million Canadians have received dental care under this program. These are people who could not afford dental care previously. Pierre Poilièvre pretends they don't exist. We've just expanded the potential pool by another 4.5 million Canadians who also are in that situation. That is a very different approach to Canada. That's a Canada that brings Canadians together, protects all, and that's the Canada we're offering.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Ashley Burke, CBC News. You've repealed the capital gains tax changes, and you're promising this middle-class tax cut. But
we'll come back to that in a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm. So those are two boom questions.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're legitimate, but they're asked like, why aren't you letting us test drive you more? What is it? Like, this is boom, right on the spot. But the second answer, the first answer was good. The second answer, he got like 4 or 5 shots in on Pierre right there.
Oh, yes.
He's ready.
He's very ready. I think he was born ready, to be honest with you. It certainly seems like it. I'm looking forward to the debates. I really am.
He learns fast.
Well, the question is, the debate should be interesting.
Yeah.
Who is Elizabeth May going to be representing the Green Party? Because I understand that things are kind of changing there, correct?
Yes, she's trying to hand off the torch. If you remember, the Greens had moved to a co-leader.
Right.
And Jonathan Pedneau was chosen as a leader, and then he had to step aside for a little bit. I'm not sure if it was a health issue or something like that. But he came back, and he's ready to take on the mantle again. So it would seem that the Greens, over the course of this campaign, he's going to be more of the face of the campaign.
Okay.
He will be doing the media stuff, and he will be doing the debate. I'm not too sure if that's really a good idea for the Greens. Like, it's good in the sense that you want to pass the torch and see the person with the new leader, but Elizabeth May is just so good in the debate.
I know. That's the thing. I like her in the debate because nothing gets by her, right? She's good.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I mean, if it's Mr. Pedneau, okay, Either way, I'm really looking forward to the debate because I'm hoping that the moderator will tell Skippy to shut his pie hole when he starts speaking over other people, because he's going to do it. He's going to do it.
Please tell me Sachi Curl is not moderating anything this time around. Pollsters should not be moderating the debates. All right.
I'd be happy to do it.
Mm-hmm. Now, the one other thing, too, by the way, I did include the person that's coordinating the press conference, stating that we'll be taking questions, one and a follow-up. And the reason I did that is because Pierre's campaign apparently has a new policy. Not only is embedded media not there, but nobody's allowed to ask a follow-up question, which means that for the election campaign, Pierre is going to be asked a question, and then he's going to go, he's going to essentially give himself permission to practice. I know you answered me the question, but here's the answer that I'm going to give you. And if you're not happy with it, well, you don't get a follow-up question. So too freaking bad.
Yeah.
So in other words, he's just announced that the entire campaign, every time he's asked a question, he's just going to talk at you regardless of what the question is and say what he wants.
This is not a man you want leading your country.
No. So there's going to be 2 questions back to back here. So we'll do both of them.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Ashley Burke, CBC News. You've repealed the capital gains tax changes, and you're promising this middle-class tax cut, but you're also making new spending commitments. So how do you plan to pay for that, and what kind of cuts will you have to make to keep up with your promise of a deficit below 1% of GDP?
Well, a couple of things. One is that we are looking at driving efficiency in government, in other words, productivity in government, by flipping around the approach to government, which is to concentrate on the outcomes as opposed to the dollars in. And so that's part of the reason why, is the core reason why we put in place a new Ministry Department of Government Transformation, use a series of reviews on programs, but also new technologies, AI, to drive those productivity. I'm going to, if I may, Ashley, just clarify something which you said, which is that we're differentiating between spending less as a government, and I would recall that government spending has gone up around 9% on average over the last several years. So we're going to get that level of spending increase down. That in and of itself will create room. But what we're concentrating on is Canada investing more. It is time to build. It's a tremendous time to build out this economy. It's what we need to do to create jobs, higher paying jobs and growth. And we will use scarce taxpayers' dollars to catalyze huge private investment in the likes of opportunities that we discussed as First Ministers on Friday. And for those who didn't watch it, I can understand why people wouldn't have watched that, so I'll say it now. This is clean and conventional energy. These are new trade corridors. This is millions and millions of homes in this country to get the cost of new homes down for all Canadians. And that's what we're looking to do as a government. That's what we will do as a government. And we put many of the foundations in place in just 9 days. We're asking for a mandate to finish that job.
Wow.
Right? And notice also that he specifically says, because they keep on saying BL 669, the No More Pipelines Act, he keeps on saying clean and conventional energy.
Mm-hmm.
Clean and conventional, not clean instead of, clean and. Now, for those of us who know that we have to make the move on green faster than we even think, this is probably not a line that they are going to like, but you have to remember that the Liberals here, and this particular Prime Minister, well, leader of the party now, is trying to capture the center-right vote that is disaffected, that is floated over. So, right, I do not think that this represents a change in overall strategy, saying, we're moving away from renewables and whatnot. But as we mentioned, we are always going to need some conventional, and well, not always, but for the next 30 years, we're going to be needing some type of conventional energy. And then said there will always be plastics and whatnot, so there will always be a need for petroleum-based products. So it's
never going away.
That energy, but it's to transform that industry and gradually reduce that energy while we do more. But yes, like this, there is a reality that if we are able to extract that type of energy in a cleaner way and reduce the emissions and the carbon output and use that to substitute other energy in the world that is dirtier, that it does have a net global benefit. Yes, that is true. The point is that we are doing, the conservatives want you to believe that if we do that, so let's say China just stops building coal plants and uses Canadian liquefied natural gas, that we get the environmental credit for that. And we don't. We get the environmental credit for extracting it with lower emissions, whatnot. But if another country decides to replace their coal with LNG for Canada to reduce their output, they get the benefit. They made that decision. It's their money they spent.
Right.
We don't get that benefit. Conservatives keep on going like this. Well, it's okay for us to, put out a personal output that's 2 or 3 times higher than the average person in the world if we help the rest of the world. It's like, no, you still got to do your part at home.
Period.
Too.
Period.
Anything that you do to help the rest of the world get greener faster is bonus, but that does not absolve you of your responsibility to do your part at home.
And the folks who argue, well, we only contribute this much because we're a small nation. Yes, but here's the thing.
Per capita, we're hogs.
Per capita, we're the worst.
But we got cold winters. It's like so does Russia and Sweden and whatnot, and they managed to do it for less than we do.
Yeah.
We're hogs.
So per capita, we are the worst. Period. It's not even up for debate. Per capita, we are the worst. So, yeah, we do need to make those changes, and they are necessary. And as PNC Bio pointed out, this is, let me just find the quote here. Sorry, in the comment, he says, if you read his book, I'll put it on the screen. If you read his book, you will see how important the environment is to him. I would say it's close to the top of the list of things he cares about. So, yeah. But he's pragmatic in the sense that he knows we can't flip a switch and everything changes tomorrow. He gets that. Former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau understood that.
Yep.
He said, look, someday we will have to end oil. We know it's coming. Someday it is coming. It's a finite resource. So we have to get ready to make that transition, and we need to start doing it now.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Mr. Grizzly, let us carry on. Yeah.
I don't know why it keeps going to that one. This is the one I want.
It's been in power for a decade. Your ministers served under the Trudeau government. Why should Canadians believe that when you say that you represent something different and change?
Well, I have several things. The first is that you've seen a change in approach and action. It's not words, but action. So the changes to the tax regime that I've mentioned, the changes to our approach to housing, you'll see much more in the coming week in terms of increasing dramatically the supply of housing. Change to the approach to our external trading partners and our security partnerships with the accords with France, with the United Kingdom, the building out with the European Union. Changes to the coverage of healthcare in this economy. So all of those steps, the scale of ambition and change in creating one Canadian economy. And I think one of the things that I would emphasize is that I recognize, and my government recognizes, the need to act dramatically and act rapidly to build an economy that's strong for Canada, to control what we can control, to build for us and by us. That's what we're doing. The other thing I would add is that we have some very strong members of our caucus of ministers. I'm fortunate to serve with them. We are recruiting some exceptionally strong candidates across this country. Some have been announced. Many more will be announced in the coming days. This is a renewed government, and the proof is in the action, and the action has been considerable. Thank you.
I really hope we can help get the message out that he's trying to relay to as many Canadians as possible. I sincerely mean that. He is the best choice for this country right now. And the amount of comments I've seen online from people saying, this is the most important election of our lives. It is the most important election of our lives for certain. In Canadian history, it's way up there. It's way up there.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's please, everyone you know, encourage them to get out and vote. Get out and vote. And the amount of people I've seen commenting has been surprising to me, saying, I've always voted a guy out. This time I'm voting a guy in. I'm like, because that's what we tend to do in this country. We vote. Right. We're not necessarily voting somebody in, we're voting somebody out. And in this case, a lot of people I've seen online on various social media platforms saying that. And I'm not talking about the people I follow. These are people I don't know who are saying these things. I want to vote a government in for the first time and not one out. I'm like, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. But the thing he talked about earlier, though, by ending trade barriers between the provinces, that is huge. Huge. It's like if I want to order a case of a small vineyard in British Columbia, a case of their wine, I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it's not legal for them to send it to me.
Mm-hmm.
I could fly out there and buy it and probably bring it home, but they would caution me that I am technically breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've heard of members of parliament who've been visited vineyards and said, "Oh, I love this. Can you send me a case?" They're like, "Nope." Like, what? We can't. There's a trade barrier, provincial trade barrier. He wants to end all of that. Which
Like Canada Day.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, that's fast.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And long overdue.
Yes. So, again, good questions, good full answers, right? Again, no notes here. Thing here, he tries to specify because the journalist didn't have it completely right. Again, it's that division between operational spending, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's been going up at about an average of 9% per year every year. He wants to bring that down. Yes, but he's not saying that that's the deficit that he wants to part of the deficit. So, but if you turn around and say, okay, now we're going to be spending like $25 billion on building a new gas terminal plant, something like that. That's what he's saying. Spend less on operational stuff so that we can invest more. Yes, and that does mean yes, we will be running deficit because hey. You buy $450,000 house. All of a sudden, if you're not paying it cash, you've taken on debt to invest. Because if you do your net cash flow for that year, you're negative a certain $100,000 for the year, right? Because it doesn't mean that you're about to go bankrupt, right? You have an asset that hopefully will gain in value over time. And you're paying. So they're spending and investing specifically. And as a banker, he's going to give us the ledgers for both instead of combining them both together. So that when we say we're running a $15 billion deficit this year, we know that $15 billion deficit within about 3 years will be 100% on stuff that we are actually building for the future.
Correct.
Right. And not just keeping stuff running. So, and that's a very big distinction, and I have a feeling that that's a distinction in accounting that is probably going to remain for a while, because the first party that will want to take that down after that is established, then the question is, what do you want to hide?
Mm-hmm.
What operational spending are you trying to hide in the project spending? So I'm hoping that sets us up very well for the future. All right, we're going to continue. And this one, Mr. Grizzly, I see there's two numbers and there's 3 dots. The 3 dots are just him saying the same thing in French. So after the 2509, just pass forward to the other one and just continue.
Yeah, no problem.
Good afternoon, Mr. Carney. Christopher Nardi from the National Post. So Alberta Premier Danielle Smith recently said that she had asked the United States administration to pause their tariffs during the federal election because they were benefiting Liberals in the polls and hurting Conservatives under Pierre Poilièvre. What is your response to those comments, and will you be able to work with the Premier in light of that revelation?
Well, my responsibility is to work with all Canadians, with all stakeholders, certainly with the premiers, with national Indigenous organizations, with Labour, with other stakeholders, with everyone. So that's my responsibility. I take that seriously. I was pleased that at the First Minister's meeting we had unanimous consent on our communique, on our objectives. We have to follow through with action for that. With respect to the Premier's comments, I take note of her alignment of Monsieur Poilièvre with Mr. Trump, and would note that that's one of the decisions that Canadians will have to make, whether they want a government that is unifying, that's standing up for Canada, and is taking focused action to build a better economy, or they want division an Americanism, and that's what Mr. Poilièvre seems to be offering, and just endorsed by the Premier of Alberta.
In French on Ms. Smith, please.
So I'll just skip ahead
Right.
because he
So
just
just
answers the same question en français. So.
Yeah. So just pointing out in that answer again, this is an opportunity for him to say something really nasty about Danielle Trump. Yeah, I guess Danielle Smith. That was a Freudian slip, actually, but it actually works. And instead, he passes on the opportunity to slag her, but says, "I note the alignment."
Yes.
With Pierre, that's such a clever pivot on it.
Oh, yes.
Now, here's a little, for those who are wondering about his ease in French, a little moment of humanity, because he gives the answer in French like this, but it ends like this.
In order to build a strong economy that works for all Canadians. It's not easy to jump into French, eh?
During the leadership campaign, you promised to, quote, cap immigration until it reached sustainable pre-pandemic levels.
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic immigration levels were rising. So will you be lowering, maintaining, or increasing current immigration levels?
Yeah, this is an important question. So the way I would characterize the situation is that post-COVID, there was a surge in immigration, both in temporary foreign workers, in foreign students, as well as permanent immigration, and we have not lived up have not lived up to the bargain with those people. There's not adequate housing. Not everyone who came here for an education was getting an education that they would expect. And a consequence of that, many other aspects, but a consequence of that is the new caps that have been put in place on much lower levels of immigration, including temporary foreign workers, including foreign students. And those caps, or something similar to those levels, in my judgment, need to remain in place until we've expanded housing. We've reabsorbed the levels of immigration that have happened in our country, and so there's not a predetermined point where one would remove or adjust those caps. And si je peux dire, parce que chaque question est
And I can say this because every question is in English and French. If I can say, with respect to Quebec, well, for Quebec, the issue is integrating immigrants and making them part of Quebec society. So there is a need for a pace that can.
Sorry, just little, yeah. He hit on like that ran a little bit longer than I intended it to. I just missed the cues there. My apologies. But he's hitting on all the points. I think. And how he's addressing Quebec here, too.
Yes, I'm glad you noticed that.
He's really trying to unify the country, for sure. There's no question, no debate about that. But he's including Quebec and saying, we want people to integrate into Quebec society. And I'm like, yeah.
I'm glad you noticed that, Mr. Grizzly, and it's very, very important, because in this case, again, in this answer, he just scored huge points with minority communities and the Quebecois. Now, he started scoring them in the previous one, right? Just going because, he was asked all that answer when they were asking him, to sort of say it in French. He was like, whew, okay, because there's a lot there like this. And then he answers it, and the journalist goes, oh, it's not easy for making the switch to French. I was like, So, but making the effort and acknowledging it, being able to laugh in French shows a certain amount of ease. Then he gets this question, tells communities, we have it upheld, our end of the bargain. That's a mea culpa right there. That needed to be said. And then when he answered, then he says, because you asked me to answer stuff in English and French, so proactively does it, scoring points in Quebec. Yes. And then says in French something that is specifically tailored to the situation in Quebec in French. And this is very important because Pierre Poilièvre, when he does his launch, he opens and says the whole thing in French first, and I listened to see, does he say something different in French and English? He says the exact same thing, and there's absolutely nothing in French when he does in French that is particularly tailored to Francophone communities or for the culture in any way, shape, or form. It's just literally the same thing he says in English with nothing tailored, nothing to recognize the specificity of Quebec or the reality of Francophones if they happen to be living outside of Quebec.
Indeed.
Nothing whatsoever. All it is if I speak first in French, then I'll score the points. But he can't speak to the reality.
No. It's one of those things where both of these men have traveled throughout the world. Both Pierre Poilièvre and Mark Carney have traveled throughout the world. Mark Carney has lived in different societies, of course. The difference being Mark Carney's travels have taught him and shaped him as a human being. And Pierre Poilièvre basically spent his entire travel time on a resort in a closed, all-inclusive, where he's not encountered any culture locally, because this man wants to speak to all Canadians.
Right.
And address them, meet them at their doorstep, and have a conversation. Pierre Poilièvre speaks down to people.
Indeed.
And that's the difference. One person has been shaped by their life. The other one has not moved one iota from who he was in high school.
Exactly. All right. Now we're going to move to this next question, 25550, Mr. Grizzly. And this one I think is very important to you, and it is important to me as well.
Make that happen.
Prime Minister Carney, you're a practicing Catholic. You went to church before you visited the Governor General this morning. Do you explicitly support a woman's right to choose? And how will your faith impact your policy deliberations should you win this election?
Thank you for the question. I wouldn't have drawn attention to the fact I went to church, but thank you for noting that. I absolutely support a woman's right to choose unreservedly, and will defend it as the Liberal Party has defended it proudly and consistently. I will defend the Charter proudly and consistently, as the Liberal Party does. I would say this: I don't speak about these matters. I think what's relevant. When I say matters, my personal faith or spirituality, but I'll say what's relevant is that it informs my sense of responsibility and service. I feel, that I should serve our country the best I can. And if I go back to my journey to be standing in front of you here, I did feel at the turn of the year, as the crisis bore down on us and the need for big change, that I should put my hand up and be part of that change. I'm humbled that I was chosen as leader of the Liberal Party. I'm privileged that I have had this time in government, a short time in government. We have made major changes to put Canada in a stronger position, a much stronger position. But much more needs to be done, and that's why I'm standing here in front of you and have asked, and the Governor General has agreed, for us to have this election so that we can make real change, positive change that brings this country together and builds an economy that works for everyone.
Well, I believe we've just encountered an actual Christian.
Uh-huh.
I love the way he downplays his faith. He goes, that really has nothing to do with, that's my personal thing. And I don't want to, interesting you brought that up. It's not something he would bring up because it doesn't bear on his governing other than his service to Canadians. This man's an actual Christian. If you heard the words he just spoke, Yes, I believe in a woman's right to make a choice, and that's never changing.
And it's not a lie because as the question was being asked, he was saying absolutely, and he realized that the question was still going on. So he was like, it was like reflexive. Absolutely, I do. And as someone who is fabulous, I was wondering because I had, right, not heard any explicit statement. I had a feeling, right, but to say, I will defend the charter as we do. I have no more questions. I have no more questions. It's very much the Jacques Chrétien type answer, right? When he was asked about same-sex marriage. It's like, my church is my church, but I govern for everyone, not for my pope.
That's basically what Jean Chrétien said.
Yep.
I have to speak up for Canadians who don't have the voice to speak up with.
Exactly.
This is an actual Christian.
Yeah. We're going to skip the next question because the question is strictly about Chandra Arya. And he doesn't really have much to say on that because that's a party decision. It was a party decision to eliminate him as a candidate before he won the leadership. He really didn't have any role to play in it whatsoever. So it's like, every party has a mechanism by which they can determine that someone is ineligible. And, it seems to me if you declare that someone is ineligible for the leadership, it isn't that much of a stretch to figure out he was going to be ineligible to be the candidate. Now, the interesting thing, of course, about, and then he's asked about running in Nepean. And, states why it is, he basically says that other than the 3 or 4 years that he lived in England for that little bit, the last 20 years, he's lived in Ottawa.
Yes.
And his home is in Ottawa.
And that's the thing that so many people I've seen online. Does he even live in Canada? Yeah, for the last 20 years, he's lived here in Ottawa.
Yeah, except
other
for that
than when he was in the UK running the Bank of England, right?
Exactly. When obviously he was living somewhere else, and we all knew it, right? So there's that. Now, the interesting thing about that he does mention, though, is that Nepean is a riding with a median income that is actually lower than the national average. So again, we have a banker that is going to be the MP for an electoral district that has a lower than average income. The same thing that Trudeau, alleged trust fund baby, when he took Papineau, one of the poorest districts in the country. So he's keeping up that tradition. So the people of Nepean, you might have someone that actually truly does actually care about making your life better.
And again, it's the riding he's lived in for the past 20 years, with the exception of the few years he was in England running
I'm not sure if he lived in Nepean. He's lived in Ottawa because right now his residence is in the Rockcliffe area, which would be Ottawa Vanier.
Oh, okay.
But he's been an Ottawa resident.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes, so he knows Nepean well, and he was able to speak to it. The other thing about Nepean, by the way, it happens to be right next door to the riding of Carleton, Nepean. And guess who's running in that one?
I'm pretty sure Bruce Fanjoy is going to win that. So pretty sure he's going to win that riding.
So it means that
Mark Carney, abandoned by the current member of Parliament that represents it.
Yes. So it'd be really interesting. Maybe the fact that Mr. Carney might be campaigning in his electoral district a couple of times might force PP to come home once or twice and maybe have to, maybe, why aren't you having a town hall maybe in your own riding?
You think?
So he was then asked to do the Chandra Arya part in French, and then he does that, and he was asked at this point as well as, would he take a question from a francophone journalist as well? And then he says one question, and when the journalist asks the question, they say, well, one and hopefully a follow-up, and he actually does stand for the follow-up. So, and he actually, as he's answering the question about Arya like this, he's actually starting to talk about Nepean in French, and then it's sort of like, well, other than francophones who happen to live in Nepean, that our answer is not really of interest to a national scope in French. So he actually cuts off his answer there, says, well, I told you stuff about the Arya stuff. I'm not sure that Nepean stuff is necessary. So I'll stop this one now if you don't mind, so I can take the extra question in French that you asked. Scoring points with francophones, left, right, and center.
And it will be noticed.
Oh, yes.
It will be noticed.
So he's got one final question that he's asked. So if we'll skip right away to 301.25, Mr. Grizzly.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yep.
Question in French?
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur Carney.
Yes, hello, Mr. Carney, Le Devoir. My first question, and then I'd like a follow-up. You say you want to make the public service more lean and mean. Can you tell us which programs you would like to cut? Well, there are two things. If there is a program put in place to accelerate investment in housing, then each government dollar should bring another dollar from the private sector. So it's a question of productivity, not about cutting.
Vous n'avez toujours pas parlé
à
Monsieur Trump.
Still have not spoken to Mr. Trump, and the relationship with the United States is really a major concern for voters. They will decide who's the best person to stand up to Mr. Trump. And since the campaign is very short, do you intend to meet with Mr. Trump at some point? And do you feel you can stand up to Mr. Trump? Yes, absolutely. I can certainly stand up to Mr. Trump, but there are certain conditions for my discussion with Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump must recognize that Canada is a sovereign country. He has to say that. He has to accept that before we can have a discussion about a trade agreement. So you will not be speaking to Mr. Trump? Well, let's just say there is no meeting that has been planned, but...
Merci, c'est ce qui m'a fait la conférence de presse. Thank you.
Boom. No tucky-tucky till the 51st state. Shit, stoppy. I don't have a meeting scheduled. Oh, I needed a postcoital cookie after that one, Kits and Cups. That answer was very, very, very satisfying.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Grizzly, I know we had intended to go into Pierre, but we're already at 2 hours. So maybe we'll save him for tomorrow. But before we do that, do you have anything else on Mr. Carney or anything else that you would want to bring today?
I want to show you something here that was just sent to me by Uncover the News. It's just a photograph. I'm going to put it on the screen and then we'll discuss. You remember how the Conservatives said they won't have any media traveling with them?
Mm-hmm. Oh, was there an exception?
The plebe reporter. We are the media now.
God.
This is the state of Canadian politics under Pierre Poilièvre, when Pierre Poilièvre only gives access to those that agree with him 100%. Canadians lose. This is disgusting.
I have no words. I have no words other than this is this is how much he respects you and your right to cast an informed vote. Mister, I'm looking for a naughty Latina, not naughty Filipina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
MGTOW.
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 One other thing
He's
to share with
screaming
you. One other thing to share with you, and we'll wrap up. It's a 1-minute video clip. We'll get into this more tomorrow, but I do want to share this 1-minute video clip because it's telling.
Hello, Mr. Poilièvre, Mark Ramsey with the Toronto Star. Your party was the target of foreign interference in the last 2 election campaigns, but you're going into this one without the security clearance necessary to receive briefings on this. When should Canadians expect you to get that security clearance?
Well, I've already had clearance. I was a minister in cabinet already, and the government has the ability to give me any information they think necessary. But what I'm not going to do is go into a process, a politically directed process by the Liberals that they use to decide what I can
Not
see
how it works.
and say and comment on.
Not how it works.
We know that the Liberals have made Canada a playground to foreign interference. They're the ones that have benefited from foreign interference. We also call on the government to have the foreign agent registry set up for this election so that Canadians know if any foreign or hostile regimes are intervening in our democracy so that we can expose that and protect ourselves.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
No.
No.
Every single word of that was a lie.
Every word of it was a lie. Well, I've had clearance. Yeah, it's long since lapsed.
And it's not the right type of clearance.
And you don't even have the clearance you need. You do not have NSICOP clearance, and you refuse to get it because you keep saying the Liberals will shut me out by saying, no, that is not how it works.
No. There are at least 5 levels of clearance that we know of.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, there may, you've mentioned cosmic clearance. There might be others that are not, I guess, but there are 5. As a member of the Queen's Privy Council cabinet, I guess, about top secret is about the most you get. That's level 3. There are 2 more on the highest level as SCI, secured compartmentalized information. I have trouble with that one in English. That's my French coming out. That's the type of stuff that you have to go into a skiff
to have a conversation.
Yeah. Right. You remember Elizabeth May said when she saw it, she went into the skiff. That's why she had to she had to remember some stuff like that because she wasn't able to to take anything out. Because he can't enter the room.
No.
He has never, ever had it. And then he says, well, if there's anything, then you need to tell me. No. The Prime Minister tried to arrange for you to have a briefing that was a threat reduction measure. The same type of level of briefing that Michael Chong got, that Michael Chong said wasn't really particularly useful. That's all you were going to get. And you refused it because you claimed that it would not allow you to take action. Well, clearly it allows people to take action. I mean, look, Mr. Arias not there, right? Somebody took action of some kind. Wasn't a big announcement. We don't know why. We don't know like this, but somebody took some action. All of a sudden, he's not a candidate anymore. So there are ways to take action. And you keep on saying, well, the government could give it to me if I wanted to, but you even if that were true, you wouldn't take it because if you were if it was given to you anyway, you would still be bound by the disclosure laws to the information you got, and you don't want to be bound with them. So even if it were true that you had already had it, but now it's lapsed, but the government could give it to you anyway if you absolutely needed it, you don't want it because you don't want to follow the law that comes with having that information. So it's a nothing statement, and it's all lies.
That's all it is. It's lies. Lies upon lies upon lies.
Lies upon lies. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show, Election 45 coverage. 100% Canadian by a nasty beaver and grizzly. All right. Now, please, if you can, because sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless, please tell your peeps and poops all about us, especially if people are looking to get their analysis and commentary 100% by Canadians for Canadians. If they're looking for that source, hey, please let them know that we're around. And if you do not want to miss an episode, especially the ears-only version, then that QR code, you'll really want to scan it because we're going to make sure that our election coverage gets out to you on the daily as we're catching up on the other stuff. Scan that, and that will bring you to our pod page, podpage.com/the-true-northeagerbeaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you get there, well, hey, you just click on subscribe, and when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. Now, if you'd like to help us in other ways, and thanks to the Ray Girl for helping us with that. If you'd like to help us in other ways, then maybe you want to surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where we have buttons like, share, and subscribe waiting for you to click, lick, and flick. Please help us out with the algorithm and then get yourself some happy while you're there. All right? And if you would like to help us in another way, kids and cubs, well, hey, we have the Eager Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, where every day we fight against the scourge that is dry beaver. So if you would like to help us in that, I mean, if we don't take care of the beavers, who will? Right? So If you want to make sure, then hey, that QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head will bring you right down to the Emergency Hydration Fund, where you can leave us a little bit of coinage and therefore make sure that we keep on speaking moistly to you throughout the entire campaign. Thank you so much for all of your support. And we do have a few thanks to give to some kids and cubs. But since we're already over 2 hours, we'll save that till tomorrow's show. But thank you so much for your generosity and your enthusiastic expressions of encouragement. Because democracy is something that you do well, kids and cubs. Election period, right? So get to know your candidates. I've seen some comments in the chats about kids getting involved, supporting certain candidates, finding out. Please do get yourself into the game, and of course, it's never too early to start planning your vote and making sure that you don't vote alone, because friends do not let friends do democracy alone, right? Bring somebody with us. It's more fun. The party's more fun when we have more people. So anything that you can do there, that's very, very important. All right. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom?
Yes. In this upcoming election, probably the most important one in Canadian history, definitely the most important one of our lives, at a time when we are threatened by our neighbors to the south, threatened of annexation, threatened by they want to bring our economy to its knees. You have a choice to make when you enter your ballot box, when you go to vote. Choose wisely. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I am telling you to get out and vote. And I would strongly recommend you don't vote for the Conservative member of Parliament in your riding. I'm not telling you not to, but I would strongly recommend you don't. Because if the Conservative Party gets into power and Pierre Poilièvre becomes the next Prime Minister, who probably will lose his riding, which would be interesting.
Oh, that would make me so happy.
Yeah. He will sell us out to Trump. He will sell us out to Trump. Danielle Smith said he's more agreeable to Trump. He will sell us out to Trump. He will sell us out to the PBCC. He will sell us out to his backbenchers who want to take away a woman's right to make a choice over her own body, take away her bodily autonomy. He's not going to do it, but his backbenchers will. Make a choice for your community. Make the best choice for your community. Vote with your heart. Vote with your soul. But just vote. Please, I beg of you to vote in this election. And that's all I've got.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Grizzly. Just before I say it could be a tough world out there, and I'm going to say it first, but I'll end with a little something. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And we'll be back for a very quick Easter egg. Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
This is an interesting clip, you sir.
Mm-hmm. Good journalism.
You know, the Trudeau government was anti-oil and gas in many regards, and that doesn't just go away overnight.
Except for buying that pipeline.
Because they drove industry out, right? They had to buy it.
Well, I think technically it was because John Horgan refused to recognize the rights of the federal government to allow for cross-border trade. And so to get around a lengthy legal challenge with British Columbia, they had to acquire it and therefore became a national project in the national interest of the federal government, and then they could force their way through British Columbia because the industry couldn't get past the constitutional intransigence, let's call it, of the British Columbia NDP.
Yeah, and I think that's cute. They're anti-oil and gas. They built a friggin' pipeline.
And you have an LNG terminal about to open on the West Coast, and they just announced another $200 million for something else. Yeah. There's something going on, and I think that this is what's happening. Just leave you with something hopeful. These people don't get fact-checked, particularly on the conservative side, because media is afraid of losing access. They've already lost access. Mm-hmm. There's no embedded media, and there's no follow-up questions. And it looks like, if the polls are correct, that they're going to lose. So it may be a situation where certain journalists no longer give a fuck about having access and are willing now to fact check in real time. So let's hope that this is a trend that continues. But David Cochran, my hat's off to you, sir.
Not having it.
Thank you for actually committing journalism. Yes. Thank you for sticking your head out the window and actually seeing if it's raining.
That's your job. We appreciate it. All right. I'll see you.
All right.